Deep in the forests of this southeastern part of Nigeria is a group that has managed to keep the Nigerian government on its feet for over a decade now. They've been proscribed as a terrorist organization as a result of their violent rhetoric and agitation for total separation from Nigeria. But a closer look at their activities, and you begin to see how these activities and rhetorics were sometimes fueled by powerful politicians and selfish men that have no interest for the people they use to push this cause. In this forbidding tale of Nigeria, I want to tell you the story of Nnamdi Kanu and the indigenous people of Biafra, a story the Nigerian government has been fighting hard to rewrite, and how those efforts have made situations on the ground worse for innocent citizens living in this resource-rich region of the country.
If the world chooses to abandon us, then perhaps it is better we all perish.
This is the late Lieutenant Colonel Chukwuemeka Odumegu Ojukwu. He is regarded as the first and only president of the now defunct Biafra Republic that existed between 1967 to 1970. Following the ethnic tensions and genocide that arose in Nigeria as a result of the first military coup in 1966, Ojukwu declared independence from Nigeria for the Igbo tribe, a move he expected would lead to a civil war.
If civil war comes, and I do think it is imminent, you're quite right, it will for us be the price of freedom.
After almost 3 years of fighting and more than 2 million civilian casualties, it was a price that eventually became too much for the Biafrans to pay, and for a freedom that remains elusive to this day. The surrender of the rebels, which also ended the war, failed to end the Biafran dream. At the end of the war, the Nigerian government, led by General Yakubu Gowon, had promised to reconcile the rebels back into the country without punishing them unfairly. Gowon started a series of initiatives known as the 3 R's: reconciliation, reintegration, and reconstruction. By implementing these post-war policies, the federal government of Nigeria guaranteed the personal safety and security of the Igbos and their properties, the right to reside and work anywhere in Nigeria, the reabsorption of public civil servants of Igbo ethnic group into the civil service and the military, and also granting of general amnesty to the Igbos. In addition to this reconciliation, reintegration, and reconstruction project, the Gowon administration created the National Youth Service Corps, known as NYSC, on July 2, 1973, which mandated graduates to serve their nation for a period of 1 year in any institution located outside their home state. These policies were seen as necessary to bring the country back together. But deep beneath the facade, there were ethnic discriminations against these Igbos. Authorities in Nigeria have been accused of using funds intended for rehabilitation in the former Biafran territories for their own ethnic communities instead. For many decades, military administrations presided over Nigeria, and residents of the oil-producing regions complained that they were not receiving a fair part of the country's oil profits. When the war was over, the government did not feel the need to reinstate Igbos who fled for their lives during the organized massacre they suffered in the north during the crisis. The government preferred to regard them as having resigned from those positions. This reasoning was also extended to Igbo-owned properties and houses, as people from other regions were quick to take over any house owned by an Igbo person. This was explained by the Nigerian government by calling such properties abandoned. Nigeria's decision to change its currency and discontinue the acknowledgement of Biafran supplies of pre-war Nigerian currency added to the sense of unfairness. Regardless of how much money an ISNA had in the account, just £20 was awarded to them after the end of the war. This applied regardless of whether they were banking in Biafran or pre-war Nigerian cash. This was perceived as an intentional effort to hold back the Igbo middle class, leaving them with insufficient cash to grow their economic activities. After the Civil War ended, the Igbos continued to feel threatened and politically marginalized by the Nigerian state. And there is a point to that. The region has been reduced from being one of the 3 major regions of the country to now being virtually a minority with the smallest number of states of the 6 zones in the federation. These sentiments being allowed to grow led to voices of dissent from young Southeasterners who began reading about the war and how their people were brutally killed in the late 1960s. This then gave birth to a whole new movement. In 1999, following the election of Mr. Olusegun Obasanjo as Nigeria's president, Ralph Uwazurike, a Nigerian activist, formed a group known as Movement for the Actualization of the Sovereign State of Biafra, MASSOB, a group advocating for the secession and sovereignty of Eastern Nigeria. Uwazurike, who is seen as a follower of Indian anti-colonial nationalist Mahatma Gandhi and American Baptist minister Martin Luther King, decided to adopt their principle of non-violence in preaching his message of freedom for the Igbo people, as he hoped to pressure the new democratic government to grant them independence. The group kicked off at Uwazurike's Temple of Peace residence in Lagos and recorded a high rise in membership in its first few weeks. But with the growing popularity, the Nigerian government began clampdowns on the group. Uwazurike was arrested on several occasions on charges of unlawful gathering and disturbance of public peace. He was often eventually released within a few weeks. Uwazurike's longest spell in detention was to come in 2005, when he was arrested in his hometown by men of the Nigerian police. He was then flown to Abuja, Nigerian capital city, aboard a private jet and remanded in an underground prison manned by operatives of the famed State Security Service. In 2005, Uwazurike was charged with treason at the Federal High Court, Abuja, before Justice Binta Nyako. He remained in detention for 2 years after a protracted bail hearing at the Federal High Court in Abuja. But as all of this were going on, someone somewhere was taking notes, preparing to get in the ring to fight for the now awakened agitation for the independence of the Biafran people. This time, violence, rhetoric, and even chaos was on the table.
What we are doing has never been done before, never attempted in the history of freedom fighting. We want to do this in style, in the Biafran style. They denied us between 67 and 70 because we were ill prepared. This time around, we are prepared.
Nnamdi Kanu is a British Nigerian political activist. During the prosecution of Chief Ralph Uwazurike, Kanu joined the movement for the actualization of the sovereign state of Biafra. He began his activism for the freedom of Biafra as a Radio Biafra director and anchor of Biafra awareness under Mr. Ralph Uwazurike. Until 2009, before founding Radio Biafra in London, Kanu was relatively unknown. 3 years later, however, in 2012, his interest began to clash with that of his superior, Chief Ralph Uwazurike. When it became clear that the two could no longer work together, Nnamdi Kanu broke away to form his own group known as the Indigenous People of Biafra. With the formation of IPOB and being in control of Radio Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu began broadcasts calling for yet another movement to realize the age-long dream of independence from the Nigerian state. But he didn't limit his campaign to radio broadcast alone. Nnamdi Kanu, having learned from the mistakes of Ralph Owazurike, took his campaign to social media. Soon enough, he was able to gather sympathizers for his cause. The messages being spread at the time were mainly to create awareness of what the Nigerian government was doing in the southeastern part of the country. Like in 2016, when Amnesty International reported that about 150 peaceful protesters had been murdered by security operatives. Even though the Nigerian government denied those claims, the seed had already been planted. With knowledge of the new violence being meted out against their kinsmen, the sympathizers were no longer just onlookers. They now wanted to contribute their own quota to whatever the cause Kanu was fighting for. They started paying more attention, and some of them took up their smartphones, created pages on Facebook, and they began spreading word around. Whatever they heard became news. No need to verify sources, no need to confirm information, just pass it along. This then gave rise to one of the most vicious disinformation campaigns in Nigerian history.
They are into mission in our land, Biafra land. They have come in the name of to shine shoe, but now they are into kidnapping. They say that it's fetching them more money. They are on mission to exterminate, kill, maim, wipe all of us.
Go after these mighty saboteurs. Those are the people that need to be beheaded. Those are the people that need to be burnt to ashes. Those are the people, their houses need to be invaded.
These are known as IPOB media warriors. They have taken time to grow their social media followers to tens of thousands. Some have up to 100,000 and more dedicated followers ready to spread whatever they are being told. Some of these were unconfirmed rumors. Some were mere propaganda meant to stir up the people. Like wildfire, these violent rhetorics spread through, often creating the desired effect of panic and fear, leading to more agitation from the people of the southeastern part of the country. But these media warriors, as coordinated as their efforts were, are not residing in Nigeria. Most of them carry out this broadcast from the United Kingdom. Some are domiciled in Italy and other parts of Europe. On September 5th, 2015, Nnamdi Kanu was a guest speaker at the World Igbo Congress, which was held in Los Angeles, United States. During his speech, Nnamdi Kanu shocked the world with remarks that drew the attention of the Nigerian government.
You must come out to support what you're doing. We need guns and we need bullets. I know we love life so much. That's why we name the human being a mad. That's why we don't kill. To kill somebody is very difficult for us. So to ask a gathering of people, please, that we need guns and bullets and weapons, it will be very difficult for you to digest. But without it, our side will overrun us. This message didn't sit well with many, and Nnamdi Kanu immediately became a target for the Nigerian government. Between 2012 and 2021, there was a surge in violent clashes between the Fulani nomadic herders and farmers in Nigeria. Some of these clashes were often dismissed by the government and security forces as communal clashes and nothing of grave concern to the security of the country, until the death rates began to climb significantly. Here is a graph showing the communal clashes in Nigeria between 2012 and 2021. The government of Muhammadu Buhari, being a Fulani man himself, was criticized for not dealing decisively with the Fulani herders, and sometimes proposing solutions that will favor the herders at the detriment of the farmers. These sentiments got the IPOB group furious. As expected, they took their anger to the social media pages where they spread different stories about the Fulani ethnic group. The Nigerian government, being led by Buhari, was quickly labeled a Fulani cabal. Many WhatsApp broadcast messages on a Fulanization agenda were shared multiple times to whoever cared to read. Some used the avenue to create religious tensions, saying there were plots in some sections to turn Nigeria into an Islamic state. The result? Nnamdi Kanu and his media warriors placed a ban on consumption of beef. All indigenes of the southeast were discouraged from buying and consuming beef, so as to punish the Fulani business. But
Kanu didn't stop at calling for violence against the Fulanis and boycotting their businesses. The rhetoric was now being directed at Nigerian security forces, with the security personnel all being classified as enemies of the Southeasterners. This resulted in violent clashes with men of the Nigerian police and sometimes the military engaged protesters, killing and arresting them randomly. Chaos began to take hold in the region.
Kill them. If you see the army and the police in your village, kill all of them. Any vehicle you see from tonight, 12 midnight to 5, destroy it completely.
The calls for violence against security personnel happened to be the straw that broke the camel's back. If the government wasn't paying attention before, now they are interested. But the government still needed a focal point, a person to attack and hold responsible for this violent rhetoric. And they got it. On the 18th of October 2015, it was reported that Kanu had been arrested in Lagos State by Nigeria's secret police, the Department of State Services, DSS. The news of the arrest of Kanu generated protests across the southeast region of the country. At the time, it seemed as though IPOB finally got what they wanted, a hero to fight for, something to fuel their anger, and they directed it in the right channel against the Nigerian government. On the 19th of October 2015, it was reported that Nnamdi Kanu had been granted bail after a secret arraignment at a magistrate court in Abuja. However, the bail seemed controversial and there were claims that the DSS announced the bail only to calm the angry people of Biafra. About a month later, a judge in Abuja ordered the Department of State Services to produce Kanu at the court on 23rd of November 2015. However, it was reported the DSS obtained a secret court order to detain Nnamdi Kanu. After being in detention for a long time, Kanu was later released on bail for health reasons. But he then disappeared from public view after his home was raided by the Nigerian military in September 2017, an event which led to the death of 28 IPOB members. Not being seen in public for over a year, there was wide-ranging speculation regarding his whereabouts, with members of the IPOB accusing the Buhari government of having abducted him. However, in October 2018, there were pictures of Kanu captured in Israel. He had fled the country. In December 2020, Kanu announced that IPOB had organized the Eastern Security Network known as ESN, which was supposed to defend southeastern Nigerians from bandits and armed Fulani herders. Kanu later gave all the governors of southeast Nigeria 14 days to ban open grazing, threatening to deploy the ESN to enforce a ban if the authorities failed to do so. The Nigerian government regarded the formation of a non-state sanctioned paramilitary organization as unacceptable and moved to suppress the group. The situation quickly escalated in January 2021 when the Nigerian military was repelled in an attempt to expel the ESN from one of the southeastern states. Before another offensive was launched, Kanu ordered the ESN to withdraw to the bush, temporarily ending the confrontation. The Nigerian Army and Air Force renewed hostilities on February 18, 2021 by launching a military offensive against the ESN. The next day, IPOB declared that as of 18th of February, a state of war had existed between Nigeria and Biafra. IPOB and other Biafran separatist groups immediately began to mobilize and fight the security forces across several southern Nigerian states. Despite this, Kanu maintained that IPOB was interested in a non-violent solution to the conflict and that ESN was supposed to fight bandits, not the Nigerian security forces. Regardless, Nigerian authorities designated IPOB as a terrorist organization and claimed that Kanu was inciting violence. The government then began renewed plans to rearrest him. In a broadcast in 2020, knowing that his time would soon be up, Nnamdi Kanu endorsed the voices of some media warriors. These people would later go on to champion the fight as the Nigerian government turned its searchlight on Kanu. On June 27, 2021, Kanu was arrested in an unknown location by men of Interpol and extradited to Nigeria, where he is supposed to face trial. On the occasion of his arraignment in court on 29th of June 2021, Kanu told the presiding judge that the Nigerian military forced him to flee the country in 2017. The trial began in October 2021 with Kanu being accused of terrorism, treason, involvement with a banned separatist movement, inciting public violence through radio broadcast, and defamation of Nigerian authorities. Despite many court rulings granting his freedom, Kanu remained under arrest and the trial continued. In the midst of the chaos, a new leader arose for the IPOB faithfuls, a voice that began to direct the affairs of the separatist movement, this time towards a more violent approach to sabotage Nigeria and any progress made by the government.
Therefore, until the 30th of July 2023, failing to release Nnamdi Kanu, I am declaring through the Biafra Republic government in exile this day, 2 weeks long sit at home, civil disobedience.
Simon Ekpa is the self-proclaimed designated Prime Minister of the Biafran Republic government in exile. He has lived in Lahti, Finland since 2007. Simon Ekpa gained widespread attention in the country after he announced on his Facebook page in 2021 that IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu had ordered him to assume the role of broadcaster on the group's radio station, Radio Biafra, shortly after his arrest. Since his endorsement by Nnamdi Kanu in 2020, many of the IPOB followers have stayed glued to Simon Ekpa's social media handles, from where he disseminates his messages, some of which have come to have devastating effects on the economy of the Southeast. Fact-checkers and authorities labeled Ekpa's social media post as fake news a number of times. He uploaded a video sometime in 2019 of individuals who seemed to be military personnel being murdered by terrorist groups. In a statement that was included with the film, he also urged people in the Southeast not to enlist in the Nigerian military, or to leave if they had already done so. The Nigerian army quickly responded by claiming that the videotape purportedly showing the murder of Nigerian troops was fake news. Simon also has been fighting battles of his own with his own people. His refusal to sign the rules of engagement and code of conduct guiding Radio Biafra has led to his disengagement. Despite the announcement of his disengagement, Ekpa wouldn't back down, and ever since has been at odds with other IPOB leaders, amplifying their actions on his social media channels. In December 2022, Ekpa ordered a 5-day sit-at-home civil disobedience campaign in the Southeast. On 14th of June 2023, Ekpa announced another week-long sit-at-home campaign from 3rd to 10th of July 2023. The recent one recorded a 70% compliance according to the report. These orders were meant to cripple economic activities in the Southeast region, an effort Simon and his cohorts believe would force the Nigerian government to listen to their demands and release Nnamdi Kanu from detention. The efforts not only failed to create the effect that they had hoped for, it further destabilized the region and set the people back as residents began to grumble and lament failed businesses.
You know, everybody will have to run for his dear life because life does not have duplicate. So what we are seeing today is as a result of fear. People don't want to come and put their life at risk. That is why you are seeing the market empty.
This is a typical Monday in southeastern Nigeria. No movements were allowed, no economic activities allowed. All residents are forced to stay at home. People who disobey this order go through this. This sit at home has led to loss of lives and properties of the Igbo people. It has also led to an increase in insecurity in the region as people continue to be shot and killed by unknown gunmen. This new challenge created by Simon Ekpa has caused a rift in the group, with some claiming a fallout has occurred between Nnamdi Kanu and Mr. Ekpa. Over 250 people have been killed through the enforcement of this sit at home since August 2021. Now with the group in disarray and focus being shifted to yet another movement in the country, questions abound. Is Biafra now just another political idea used by politicians to push their selfish ambitions? Some people continue to support Biafra out of a sincere desire for self-determination, claiming historical grievances, racial and cultural diversity, and a perceived marginalization as justification for their positions, while in fact others may utilize the idea of Biafra to advance their own political ambitions or those of their local or personal communities. But what has those sentiments got to do with the biggest political revolution in Nigerian history? That is a question we will answer in the next part of this story. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and do well to check out this video showing up on your screen right now, and I'll see you inside.